The hall was silent, except for the echo of her father's furious voice. Clara stood at the center, her cheeks burning red as whispers swirled around her like a cruel wind. At 17, she was heavier than most girls in her town. Her rounded figure had made her the subject of mockery all her life, but nothing prepared her for what was about to happen that day. Her wealthy family, embarrassed by what they called her shameful behavior for refusing a marriage proposal from a prominent family, decided to punish her. In their eyes, she wasn't graceful enough, beautiful enough, or obedient enough to bring them pride. So, in front of the entire community, they announced that she would be given away to a poor farmer in the remote countryside, a man they considered beneath them. Gasps filled the room as if her life had just been auctioned off. Clara's heart pounded painfully. In that moment, her life shattered. If you believe in kindness, second chances, and that every soul deserves love and respect, please like, comment, share, and subscribe to The Gentle Truth. Your support helps spread meaningful stories to more hearts. The journey to the farmer's land was long and cold. The carriage wheels creaked over dirt roads that grew narrower and lonelier with every mile. Clara sat quietly, staring out at the endless fields, fighting back tears. She had been raised in luxury, surrounded by chandeliers and servants, but never love. She wasn't being sent to a husband, she was being discarded. When the carriage finally stopped, she saw a small, modest farmhouse surrounded by weathered fences. A man stepped out. He was broad-shouldered, tanned from the sun, and wore simple clothes. His name was Elias. Everyone called him the poor farmer, as if that were his entire identity. Clara lowered her eyes, expecting cruelty or mockery, but Elias simply nodded and helped her down. There was no grand welcome, no ceremony, just quiet acceptance. The first days were the hardest. Clara had never worked a day in her life. Her hands blistered from carrying water and washing clothes. Her back ached from scrubbing floors. The neighbors whispered about her size, saying she was lazy and spoiled. She heard them. Every word cut like a blade. Nights were the worst, when she lay awake in the small wooden room, thinking of how easily her family had given her away. She felt invisible, unwanted, and utterly alone. But slowly, something began to shift. Elias never raised his voice, never mocked her, never treated her like a burden. He didn't offer pity either. He simply gave her space to find her rhythm. She noticed how he rose before dawn to work the fields, how he returned covered in dust but still found time to fix broken fences or tend to sick animals. He treated the land with quiet respect, and somehow he extended that same quietness toward her. Weeks passed, and Clara began to discover strength she never knew she had. She woke earlier, worked beside him, learned to milk cows and plant seeds. The physical labor was exhausting, but with every day she grew stronger, not just in body, but in spirit. Her laughter, something she had buried long ago under shame, began to return in small moments. When a chicken chased her through the yard, when the rain soaked them both during harvest, when Elias nodded in silent approval after she carried 2 heavy pails on her own. For the first time in her life, she wasn't being judged for her weight. She was simply living. But the villagers kept their distance. To them, she was still the girl given away. Rumors swirled that Elias had taken her in as charity. Some mocked her openly at the market. Clara tried to ignore them, but late at night the cruel words replayed in her mind. She wondered if Elias regretted accepting her. One evening, she overheard 2 men talking. "Poor Elias," one said, "he's stuck with that girl. She can't bring him anything, no money, no status. Just more mouths to feed." Clara stood frozen behind the barn, tears streaming silently. That night, she packed her small bundle of clothes. She couldn't bear to be a burden any longer. As she reached the gate in the moonlight, she heard footsteps behind her. Elias stood there, calm as always. He didn't stop her with force or words. He simply said, "If you leave, leave, because it's what you want, not because of what others say." His voice held no judgment, only quiet strength. Something inside Clara cracked open. She realized she didn't want to run anymore. For the first time in her life, This place felt more like home than her family's mansion ever did. Slowly, she lowered the bundle. That night, instead of leaving, she stayed, and everything changed after that. Months passed, and Clara became a vital part of the farm. Her hands grew strong, her heart even stronger. The villagers noticed. She began baking for community gatherings, tending to the sick animals of neighbors, helping children with chores. The same people who once whispered started greeting her with warm smiles. Her kindness spread like morning sunlight. And as spring arrived, something extraordinary happened. One day, a group of men in fine clothes arrived at the farmhouse. They were land brokers, shocked to see Clara living there. She overheard them speaking to Elias with newfound respect. That evening, Elias told her the truth. He wasn't poor at all. He owned thousands of acres of land, fields, forests, and even grazing lands beyond the hills. He had inherited everything from his family, but chose a humble life, working the soil himself rather than living in luxury. The poor farmer was a myth created by those who couldn't understand his quiet way of living. Clara was stunned. She had never imagined such a truth. But what shocked her more was that Elias never used his wealth to impress her or anyone else. He had let her see him, the real man, not the title. And he had allowed her to grow into herself without judgment. In that moment, her heart swelled with something she had never felt before, belonging. She realized she wasn't a punishment. She was a gift, to him, to the land, to herself. Years later, people would tell their children about the girl who came to the village unwanted and left behind a legacy of kindness. The farm flourished, not just because of the land, but because of the love and strength Clara poured into it. She became a beacon for young girls who felt different, unwanted, or mocked. And when her family came back one day, seeking forgiveness after their fortunes dwindled, they were met not by the broken girl they cast away, but by a woman who had built a new life from the soil of rejection. If this story touched your heart, please like, share, and subscribe to The Gentle Truth. Comment below and tell us which moment moved you the most. Your words keep these stories alive and help them reach more people who need hope.